It's a huge recruiting weekend as far as the transfer portal goes for the West Virginia Mountaineer coaching staff, as several players will be visiting over the weekend, and the Mountaineers have been able to get several commitments as well, some which should really excite Mountaineer Nation. We're going to talk about a few of those in this episode of Couz's Corner, which is brought to you by Cats, Cantor, Stone Street, and Buckner, and BetUS Online Sportsbook. Thanks to them for helping keep the lights on. So stick around and we'll have the conversation about some of these commitments right after this. Since 1931, the attorneys at Cats, Cantor, Stone Street, and Buckner have been the voice for victims who have suffered serious injury or death. They have a fierce passion for truth and justice and a sincere compassion for those who have been wronged by others. Whether you have been in a car accident or fighting with an insurance company, or you or a loved one has suffered serious injury or death due to medical negligence, we will ensure your voice is heard loud and clear. Cats, Cantor, Stone Street, and Buckner will ensure there is justice for all West Virginians, because we are your lawyer, your voice. Visit us at yourlawyeryourvoice.com. What is up, and welcome into another episode of Couz's Corner. You have found yourself at the place that serves up top shelf college football news and analysis almost every single day. I'm your host, Couz. Thanks for stopping in on tap in today's episode. We're talking about West Virginia transfer portal recruiting. We'll also talk about a few coaching staff announcements that have been made as well. We'll touch on that at the end of the show. But let's go ahead and kick it off by talking about some of these transfer portal commitments. Now, West Virginia has gotten some commitments. Obviously, some excite fans more than others. The first commitment I want to talk about just briefly is kicker Ethan Head from Tulane. He's a freshman, kicked 21 extra points and 5 field goals on the 2024 season for Tulane. He went 18 of 21 on extra points and 4 of 5 on field goals. Now, the 3 missed extra points, not going to lie, that's a little concerning to me. But he is only a freshman, so he has plenty of time to work on his craft. And to help him do that, which is one of those coaching announcements, is Pat Kirkland, who Coach Rodriguez will be bringing over with him from Jacksonville State. That was actually announced just a few minutes before I went on the air here. It had been kind of expected because Pat Kirkland had actually listed West Virginia or had WVU football on his Twitter account for several days now. So most people assume that's the role he was going to take because that's what he was doing at Jacksonville State, was working with special teams. So he'll be a special teams coach or special teams coordinator and defensive assistant on the staff, and we'll be helping folks like Ethan Head and others with the kicking game. And that is good because Michael Hayes, the kicker for West Virginia, who has been very consistent, will be moving on as he has out, as far as I know, he's out of eligibility. The second commitment I want to talk about is Ashton Woods. Now, this is a recruit from he's out of North Carolina. He's a transfer portal recruit out of UNC, played for the Tar Heels for 1 year. He will be coming in with all 4 years of eligibility, though, because he redshirted as a freshman at UNC this past season. Ethan Woods stands 6'3", 225 pounds, played very, very sparingly at UNC, mostly on special teams, I think. Recorded 0 stats as far as I can tell. If that is incorrect, then please correct me in the comment section. But Ashton Woods was a very highly recruited young man out of high school. He was a 3-star recruit according to 24/7, but some services had him as a 4-star recruit. So he was a very, very highly touted recruit coming out of high school in Marietta, Georgia. Another thing about Ashton Woods, and the one thing that may have prevented him from seeing the field more as a freshman, was he did battle a few injuries during his freshman season, according to some of my contacts at UNC. They were very excited about him, expecting him to play some, and then I think he got banged up during preseason practices and whatnot and just was never able to fully recover from that. So, unfortunately, he wasn't able to play, but that may be good for the Mountaineers, as now he will have another year of eligibility in Morgantown. The third player I want to talk about is another Power 4 transfer recruit. That is Johnny Pascuzzi, or I'm assuming I'm pronouncing it right. He is a tight end transfer out of Iowa. So he's coming out of the Big Ten. He spent 2 years at Iowa, played 110 snaps this past season, recorded 1 catch for 40 yards, spent most of his snaps playing as a run blocker. Played 167 snaps for the 2023 season. 133 of those snaps were in run blocking, and 83 of his 110 snaps in 2024 was spent as a run blocker. Now, when you look at his PFF grades, they don't blow you out of the water. He had a 45.5 blocking grade, run blocking grade as a freshman in 23, and a 53.4. In 2024, he had a 45.5. In 2023, he had a 53.4 run blocking grade. So they don't blow you out of the water. But I reached out to a contact I have who covers Iowa, and he really likes Pascuzzi and thinks Pascuzzi, had he been playing for any other school outside of Iowa, he might have been a scholarship player. He was a walk-on at Iowa. But we all know that Iowa is one of those schools that really churn out a lot of tight end talent. As a matter of fact, the entire Big Ten does, basically. But Pascuzzi, or Pascuzzi, again, I'm not sure how to pronounce his name. It's Pascuzzi, but he is extremely talented. I expect he will come into West Virginia and be relied on to help a lot in the the run blocking game, because we all know that's what Coach Rod loves to do. Now, his pass blocking grade was actually quite a bit higher, but he had very, very limited snaps in the pass blocking game. And again, I mentioned he did have the one reception for 40 yards in 2024. So it was a big play. So I expect, if you're bringing in a guy who has 2 years of Power 4 experience, they likely are bringing him in and expecting him to contribute in year one in Morgantown. And I would expect nothing less from someone with that type of resume. Again, doesn't blow you away, but he is a Power 4 player. He's been playing against Power 4 competition at practice each and every day for 2 years. I think that means something. So we need to be excited about it. He's a big body. And, Traylon Davis, the coaching staff spoke highly of Traylon Davis as well in the run blocking game. And his run blocking grades weren't always great either. So Pro Football Focus, even though I like to use it a lot, and even though it is not always super accurate, it is one of the best tools out there for judging how well somebody does. But, it doesn't always line up with how coaches grade guys out. So, and it doesn't always line up with statistics on the field either. So, it isn't the end all be all, right? But it does give you a little bit of a snapshot. But I do think Pascuzzi can improve a lot on that in Morgantown. The fourth player I want to talk about as a transfer is the one I think most Mountaineer fans are the most excited about in this group. That is Cam Vaughn. Cam Vaughn was the number one wide receiver for Coach Rod at Jacksonville State. He comes over after playing as a redshirt freshman for the Gamecocks last year. And here were his statistics last year playing for Jack State. 49 catches for 804 yards, 5 touchdowns. Very, very good year. Was one of the top receivers. He may have been the top receiver in all of Conference USA. I know he was definitely up there. One of the most explosive receivers in the country. Very, very talented young man. He also is 6'2" and weighs about 190 pounds. So he's a taller receiver, a little bit taller than some of the other receivers that have been brought in so far. So I will expect Cam Vaughn has a shot to be West Virginia's number one wide receiver in 2025. One of the things the fans have complained about is we haven't had that great big-time, big-play receiver in Morgantown for the last several years. Yes, we've had some good receivers. We've had Bryce Ford-Wheaton. We've had, Caden Prather. We've had, Hudson Clement, Traylon Ray, but we haven't really had that one guy who would be an elite number one receiver. They brought in Jaden Bray last year out of the portal, hoping he would be that guy, but he battled injuries almost all season. Now, Bray so far is still on the roster. Maybe he breaks out in 25 and becomes the guy they want him to be in 24. Or maybe Cam Vaughn comes in and is that guy. But either way, Cam Vaughn should be a huge contributor for Coach Rod in this offense, whether the quarterback's Nico Markiel, whether the quarterback is Jalen Henderson, the transfer from A&M, whoever it is. They will have a really, really talented target in Cam Vaughn. So I'm really excited about Cam Vaughn. Even though he played at Jack State, he was very highly recruited. A lot of schools wanted him. A lot of Power 4 schools wanted him. But he decided to come to West Virginia and Coach Rod. A lot of fans were upset about Hudson Clement leaving and talked about how good of a receiver Hudson Clement was. And that's fair. Hudson Clement did a good job at West Virginia, had some really big games. There's also been some talk about, well, maybe Hudson Clement left or Rich Rod maybe didn't encourage him to stay enough because maybe Coach Rod didn't think he was a fit. There's been some talk about that as well. And I don't know. I wasn't in the room, so I won't, and neither were you. So we don't know the answer to that. At least I don't think you were. You might have been. but I wasn't. So I don't know the answer to that question. But I did do something. I went to Pro Football Focus, and I decided, you know what, since Coach Rod likes to run about 65% of the time, maybe run blocking is a big piece of what he looks for when he's recruiting receivers. So how good of a run blocker was Cam Vaughn versus how good of a run blocker was Hudson Clement? And I've got the numbers here. Cam Vaughn, according to Pro Football Focus, Cam Vaughn's total offensive grade was 80.8. Total pass catching grade or receiving grade, 81.3. Total run blocking grade, 72.8. He had a run blocking grade of 72.8. That's pretty darn good, especially for a wide receiver. It's above average. And Hudson Clement's grades were mostly in the 70s in most categories, but specifically when you look at his run blocking grade, it was 45.5, well below average. So if you're comparing Cam Vaughn's run blocking to Hudson Clement's run blocking, at least according to Pro Football Focus, West Virginia may have gotten an upgrade there. I know some people are going to say, but it was against lower level competition, and that's fair. But at least for now, at least on paper, both statistically and in the blocking game, West Virginia got an upgrade at that position. For those of you who've watched this show for a while, you know I am a partner with BetUS Online Sportsbook. And I usually talk about their online sports betting. Well, you can do more than just sports betting over at BetUS. Right now, BetUS also has a casino. BetUS.com/casino, and they have a special, a 200% sign-up bonus on your first deposit up to $5,000. If you want to play, whether it's dealer games, whether it's slots, whatever it is, go to BetUS.com/casino, get a 200% sign-up bonus on your first deposit if you want to do something outside of just sports betting. If this is something you're interested in, check it out and take advantage of this offer today. As far as visitors go, I've got to give a shout out here to Mr. Jeff Cobb. It's Jeff Cobb with BlueGoldNews.com. Covers recruiting for them. He put out a list of visitors for this week. Defensive lineman Adam Tomzik from Cerritos Community College is supposed to be visiting today, Tuesday, January 7th. Also visiting today is offensive lineman Robbie Martin from NC State, a West Virginia kid. Running back Ty Edwards from University of Northern Iowa. Defensive end Justice Finkley from Texas. Very excited about that one. Defensive back Crew Wakely from BYU will be visiting on the 8th. Cornerback Michael Coach Jr. from Nevada is also expected to visit tomorrow, the 8th. And even though Coach was at Nevada, he was number 2 in the country in passes defended or pass breakups. So he's extremely talented. Could potentially be a lockdown corner for the Mountaineers. Also, tight end Dallas Holmes from Lafayette College expected to visit this week. And then add to that list another defensive back, Devontae Golden Nelson from Akron. And then is Ole Miss transfer offensive lineman Mana Teamani. He's supposed to be visiting this week as well. Now, some brief coaching news. I mentioned Pat Kirkland earlier in the show. Also it got announced what Jeff Castile's role was going to be on the team. Jeff Castile will be the Bandits coach for the Mountaineers. So former West Virginia DC Jeff Castile, who served as an analyst for Neil Brown and his staff up until 2024 when he decided to retire, is coming back to be an on-field coach and will coach the Bandits. It was also announced yesterday that Travis Trickett, former West Virginia tight ends coach, will be coming back to Morgantown to also serve on Rod's staff. His role has not been announced yet. I'm assuming, now this is totally an assumption, he may be the offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach. I don't know. I'm assuming there. Maybe he's just going to be an assistant position coach, but I don't expect someone who's been an actual offensive coordinator at the G5 level. I wouldn't think he would take an assistant position coach at West Virginia. I would expect him to have a bigger role than that, but again, nothing's been made official yet. And by the time I upload this video, heck, it may be announced. Who knows? But so Travis Trickett coming back to Morgantown. That's exciting. He's a great coach and was one of the best recruiters on Neil Brown's staff, especially recruiting out of the state of Florida. So West Virginia hopefully can get that Florida pipeline going again that they've had in the past. And then Dusty Rutledge, who's been a long time assistant or staff member, I should say, for Coach Rod, is coming back to West Virginia to serve as Coach Rod's chief of staff. So that was announced. There may be some other coaching announcements I'm missing, but those were the ones just off the top of my head that I jotted down before I did the show. I want to remind you that I do have a merch store. Check it out with the link in my description box. Also, there's a link to ONIT Athlete Trading Cards. I'm an affiliate marketer for them. If you use that link in my description, I'll make a small commission on the sale, and you can support your favorite student athletes with NIL and get yourself some really cool NIL trading cards. I want to give a shout out to my VIP channel members of this episode: T Jinx 048, James Green, Dustin Saltz, Brandon Bailey, and Timbo. I want to thank them all for being supporters of the channel. If you want to be a VIP member, hit the join button below. If you don't see a join button, because some devices make it complicated, then go to the link in the description box or go to my channel homepage on YouTube, and there is a link there. You can hit join. It shows you the 2 levels that are offered, the perks that come with those levels, and you can join there for either $2.99 a month or $4.99 a month, depending on the level you want to join. And it's an easy and inexpensive way to support what I do here on the channel. And if you want to just help me out for free, you can do that too, and it's much appreciated. Hit the thumbs up button on this video. Drop a comment below. Subscribe to the channel. Help me get to that next big number of 10,000. All of those things really help me out, help the YouTube algorithm, and help my channel grow. You can also share it with people. Let them know Couz's Corner is here. Anybody you know who loves WVU football, conference realignment, or even the Big 12, they might be interested in what I have to say here on the channel. I really appreciate you tuning into the show. You may check out this other show in the corner of your screen. You might actually like it. Hope the rest of your day's top shelf and Q Country Roads.